Did you ain't no Rose? What's her name in Inception?
Marion Cotillard.
Marion
Yeah.
Cotillard. So what's her character name?
Mal. It's
Mal.
Mal.
That's what it is.
Mal.
Yes,
Thank
Mal.
you so much. We need some of the. I need a refresher.
Maybe you should have watched the movie.
We
then.
should have. Did you see what happened in the last 48 hours? It's been a little bit busy. Ariadne. All right, we're working it. We're working through it.
What words are we saying? Okay. You want to hit the button? Y'all ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Y'all ready for this?
In love with movies. In love, in love.
Danny and Nick.
In love with movies. Da da da.
Hello,
movie lovers. Just kidding.
I'm Nick.
Singing voice.
Thank you. I'm Dani.
And this is In Love
with Movies.
Where we...
Oh, God, I wasn't ready for that part. I think we talk about movies and...
Love, if you can believe that. Yeah, that's the thing we do. All forms of it. We love here. And if you are new to our channel, we appreciate you listening or watching us, depending upon whether you're on a podcast or anything like that. Welcome. And you may perhaps have found us...
because we have very cool people on our podcast, and by very cool, I mean like they're way cooler than we are.
You may have found us because we had a fun appearance on Settle the Score somewhat recently, where we were pitted against tonight's guests, which is how we were able to then navigate convincing them, cajoling them, twisting their arms to convince them, because, as Danielle said, they're much cooler than us. Late to the party. How are you doing?
We even got the DJ horn too. I was not expecting. I had everything ready where I was going to go, and then I heard the DJ horn. Yeah,
stay on your toes. Let's go.
Are you kidding me? That match was insane. So if you guys didn't watch it, holy hell!
Yeah, it was a great one.
Instant friends, just through a situation like that, to where if we're in your neck of the woods, we're calling you up, we're hanging out. That's the type of deal. Just from experiences and loving things like soundtracks and Justin Timberlake.
God, don't get me started. Do you all want to say your names?
Late to the party. I'm Robert.
I'm Vanessa.
At the beginning of every video, it's hello there. I'm Robert. Not Vanessa. We're late. So we say our names a lot.
So you just got to witness us do that thing.
Yeah,
I'm Dani.
Sure.
And that's why they were like, we're not doing it. This is not our show. We don't have to do that. But yes, we are late to the party. We are a collective together. That is all you need to know.
For sure. Always.
Yeah.
The party's always growing. You guys have joined the party. The party is vast and outreaching. So, yeah, we are the party.
We are party.
We are party.
Hashtag we are party right there.
You don't even need the
Fun
sound
fact.
effect.
My wife is obsessed with the air horn, if you hadn't discovered
That's
that.
not an air horn. That's a
DJ horn.
At our wedding,
I was just going to say
people
that.
were calling me DJ Cardi Bride. And the DJ let me go up on stage, and he's like, you can only press one button, and it is this button. And it was the so all night, people were like, oh my God. But they had no choice. It was my party. I was in charge.
The wedding singer has come a long way for the wedding world, hasn't he? Like, it's the wedding singer, and now it's the DJ doing the...
Wedding singers don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the evolution of entertainment during matrimony.
Just
partying.
get the guy from The Hangover.
Sure.
Take it to the candy shop.
Yeah.
I legitimately was listening to that guy's albums quite a lot around that time, because it was like, oh my God, it's all your favorite pop songs except done as cool, lounge music.
Dropping F-bombs every other stanza.
Grandma would love that.
Those are great.
Well, we were happy to have Late to the Party agree to be on our podcast with us and give us a little bit of their background, because they are partners in business, partners in all sorts of walks of life. And so we are going to talk about their love with and for each other and how that works. Because as we were saying right before we hit record, Vanessa was even saying like, oh yeah, we literally just do everything together. And then, what that looks like, because, choosing to have your lives be entirely intertwined. Danielle and I have some experiences where we learned maybe that's not a good thing for us all the time. So I'm curious to see how it works out for the two of you, and we're looking forward to do that. But so for that to start things off and start the conversation, why don't you give us sort of a sort of overall brief breakdown of your entire love story? Sort of who is Late to the Party? How did you form? And since when have we now gotten to the amazing movie trivia champions and reacting hosts that you are? What was that journey?
That's actually elegant. Reacting hosts.
Yeah, right.
Reacting host, yeah.
We met Best Buy.
Best Buy.
Because we worked at Best Buy together.
Work, yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
That is an adorable meet cute. I love this start. Continue.
And then we just bonded over stuff. Music a little bit, because I was looking through like your Zune and stuff. I'm like, oh, I know that band. Oh, I like that band. I like that band. And then we started talking about movies, as you do when you're working at Best Buy and they have a bunch of movies there. You just start talking about movies.
Work,
You're,
man.
like, putting them on the rack and talking about like, oh, I really like this one, or this movie was garbage.
Or stocking SD cards, or putting a TV on the wall. Like it was fine. There's worse jobs out there, but Best Buy, it really comes down to the workplace, man. I mean, so many people just meet up at the workplace, and that's where you find those that are so damn like in tune and connected to you in whatever way it is. So I worked at a Target forever.
Oh,
and
I love
that,
Target.
Yeah, I don't, but
I don't want to know what's behind
I
the
like
curtain.
shopping at Target.
No, I understand Target is a very well-oiled machine in every way, shape, or form, and that's unfortunate for workers that want to be long-term. Best Buy, worse, cut that longevity in half, and you're good. But really, I mean, when you're working at a place of technology, it comes down to the mediums. It comes down to the media. It comes down to the entertainment. So music or TV shows, movies. And in this case with Vanessa, it was the music. So, yeah, I was very much against Apple in terms of just the interface navigation. It's so damn easy. What are you guys doing? I like difficulties. But she's Apple. Yeah, okay, perfect.
I caught on the fact that it was a Zune that we were listening to the music and not an iPod at the time. So.
Absolutely. It was a Microsoft Zune.
Yes.
You had a Zune.
I did.
Yeah, see? Danny knows what's up. She gets it.
So, and then he lost that Zune, and then I got him another Zune for Christmas, and then he misplaced that one too. So
Yeah, you know why?
Anymore.
Because it's not.
I still got my iPad.
Because it's not practical to carry a wafer around
It really is like
at all times.
It's huge.
But anyways, I had a hell of a selection. I was very much a concert goer at the time, screamo type of crazy rock, hardcore to some extent.
I think like the first time we ever hung out, we went to a concert.
Yeah, it was a big
like
festival.
Festival. Fall Ball is what it's
Data
called.
Remember there too?
No, it was
either way.
Sick Puppies.
Oh, damn, she's got them. Neon Trees.
Depeche Mode was there.
Neon Trees.
They were
Remember
Don't know that one. I actually don't know that one.
Neon Trees.
That was
I know
when
Neon
we
Trees.
went, but I'm pretty
right? I
sure
miss Neon Trees.
Depeche Mode was like the final band. that was there.
Sure.
Anyways, yeah. That
What
happened.
words are you saying?
I was just gonna say you've known like most of the
Every
bands that
single
they've
band
said, and I'm
except
just
for
like
that one.
I don't know any of these. Like
It wasn't
Maybe?
Depeche Mode. It was.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I
I'm
don't-
like 98% sure it was.
So she's going through my Zune and she's like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, which is typically what you got with my Zune. And if you listen to that kind of a music, I had some deep cut, like real good screamo bands that were still, trying to break through. And that was the connection. It was concert goings. And with the concert goings, it's conversation, man. It's movies and it's just opinion, man. It's opinion. Just consistent with all of the best friends around us.
Mhm.
But at this best friend and I were not talking, like it was just conversation. That's why we turned the camera on.
Yeah. And then it was funny because we were working at one Best Buy and then he moved to a different Best Buy, and I was like, "Yeah, let me go to that one too." So I went to
We ran that
one,
Best
so-
Buy, man. We ran that Best Buy. It was great, man,
So
because
we-
nobody knew
No.
that we knew each other. Really,
Yeah.
we went over there. No one had really
Because
any
he went
idea.
first, and it was like a month until
It was
after,
like we
and then I went
infiltrated
to-
another
yeah.
Best Buy. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome because I had, conversations with people. Some people were just, creepers behind the scenes, and I was just sitting there like having the time of my life because we can battle these creepers with wit, and we typically did. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
And then it got to a point too where like you were kind of in a living situation doing your own thing, and I was in a living situation that was
Mirrored.
kind of like kind of the
Mirrored.
same but kind of different. It's
Same,
still same.
but
And then we were like, let's just get an apartment together.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so we got an apartment together because we worked at the same place, so it made sense.
And it's stayed that way forever. Like that.
And were you all recording before you got an apartment together? Had you started the
No.
channel or anything? Okay, so this was
No.
still just Best Buy. That's the only work we're doing together, and then we're going to the same place, so why not?
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was, and then our cars broke down. Dually.
Yeah.
Oh my
Dude.
god.
His car broke down and then my car broke down, and so we were we got an apartment where we could like ride the bus. It was like super easy, like the bus stop was like right there.
Those kind of
Sure.
things.
So we did that, and then eventually we got a car, and then we have another car, and now it's all good.
Horrible
now.
credit, decent credit. Like it's
We went
crazy.
through
It is
everything, yeah.
crazy the transformation from then to here. We did it together the entire time.
yeah,
Wow. What
Yeah.
city were you in when you met? I'm just curious.
Same city still.
yeah, same city.
Tucson, Arizona, sir.
Oh, you're in Arizona.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why I
in
thought you were in
Arizona.
California.
No,
Well, because there's
we hang our
a
hat
lot of
there a
people
lot.
that
Because you are big time.
No.
I think Arizona, California is like right next door. So
Yeah,
It's like-
it was what, if I remember correctly, like a 2 or 3 hour drive when you guys first went to the first like Schmodown taping or something like that.
7.
6 hours.
Oh shit! Okay,
Seven.
never mind.
Yeah, because
To
we,
get to
we
Burbank.
live in Tucson, so it takes about 2 hours just to get to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix to California is like 5.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Phoenix to
Burbank
is
5.
about 5. California is I think like 3.
But it's just kind of funny, like when we started doing that, we were just talking about how when we were younger, our parents and stuff would just make a big deal about going to California, like, oh, we're going to California, like it's such a big trek. But then
Mhm.
when we did it and we kept going for the Schmodown and stuff, I'm like, it's not really that big a deal
Yeah.
just going over there.
we were going like at one point I think we went 1 week and then we went the next week. It
Yeah.
was just like
Oh.
California back and forth. California, here we come. Karate Kid
And then
But
you
we-
sang that
we-
the whole time.
California.
knows how to party.
We lucked out.
How so? Tell me.
This is a very interesting story now.
Oh damn.
We locked out when it came to like being in front of the camera and stuff too because of the equipment that we got. So
Best Buy.
he was like all
That
into
makes sense.
the. What did you worked in like the camera section and
I was a digital imaging lead.
yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh, quite the title. I like that.
Absolutely. It came with quite the perk.
Yeah, they sent him to Seattle for some thing for Best Buy to learn like different shots, like how to shoot with the camera, how
Photo
to use the
boot camp.
camera. Yeah, basically like how to do things with the camera so you can like take that knowledge and bring it back and then sell it to other people.
I did.
Okay.
And they gave him equipment. Like they were like, "This is yours." They gave him 2 cameras, like a big old like camera box,
Pelican case.
yeah, Pelican case,
Everything.
uh,
All the fixings.
tripod. Like the camera was a DSLR. Like
Yeah.
it was.
They
They
was
spent a pretty
DSLR.
penny for that.
it was insane. I couldn't believe it. And then came home and it sat in the closet.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well,
It's like
what am I going to do with it? I was so busy working so much, and yeah, eventually it came down to getting inspiration, like a bolt of lightning. It was watching trailer reactions, and it was watching trailer reactions for The Force Awakens.
Okay.
And granted, we had been watching trailer reactions, but the one that really kind of hit it home was how excited and passionate and animated we were when it came to just talking about Star Wars, that trailer. And we were watching YouTube and those YouTubers and Tyrone Magnus and The Real Rejects and we were already watching Collider Video and AMC Movie Talk from
Right.
then. And so there were all these personalities that we were getting this inspiration from. And one of the YouTubers, top YouTubers at the time, Casey Neistat, was using Canon 70D for his vlogs. And then another YouTuber I followed who idolized him also had a Canon 70D. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like that's the camera that I have in the closet. Pull it out, and I'm like, we've got the Canon 70D. Like, why? Like, we've got the tools, we've got the talent. It's Millet time. Ghostbusters. Check out our Ghostbusters Afterlife review on our channel. But it was like, man, this was just definitely an amazing opportunity, and we really didn't have the knowledge or the brains on how to do it at all. But man, we knew we had to, and that's why, like, you go back to the first videos, man, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, the lighting,
everything.
Oh.
Just
we were having this conversation recently because we feel like in the last several months, maybe we've started to get a little bit of momentum going with our podcast, and we then think back to like, well, I'm almost straight up embarrassed to have new listeners.
People should not listen to
like they think they need to go back to episode 1 as if there's some sort of narrative that they have to follow. And I'm like, no. Please start with the most recent ones.
Sure.
And then whenever you decide that we are too terrible for you to listen to, that's okay. You just stop listening there and you continue from there on.
Including now.
Yes.
So, question for you guys then.
Yes.
Where did the name Late to the Party come from?
Best Buy.
Oh my gosh!
Everything, it all goes back to Best Buy.
Yeah, it's just, it was where I was when I thought of it. So
it
hit me that we were going to do the YouTube channel. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, primarily the Schmoes Know and the Collider stuff that they were doing, Schmoes Know Show. And a whole branch of those personalities. And from there, it was just like, you know, do I do a podcast? Like, is that something that we would want to do? Or are we going to, you know, go crazy with the camera and just go primarily visual? And so I started thinking, because like a lot of these podcasts, you know, clever names. It's something that identifies them and what they're covering. In love with movies, you know, it's definitely got connective tissue to both just you, who you embody, and also what you're covering and what you want to do. How do you find that? It's tough. It's tough to kind of think of what embodies that in a name. And eventually, it took me a little while too. And I remember I was in the back room at Target, and I somehow talked to the store. What'd I say?
Target.
I wasn't going to correct him. I'm glad you did.
I worked there like 8 years too.
I was like, okay, so we went from Best Buy to Target. All right,
sorry.
No, he does it all the time though.
I'm jumping around in the timeline when it comes to my past. The Best Buy, the back room, I talked them into letting me be their primary movie replenisher and music replenisher. So they hired a company to come and do that. And then they fired the company and they're like, we need to save money. And they were like, just have your team do it. Like, whatever, just whoever's on duty that day, have them take care of whatever needs to be done. No, it's a job that requires a little bit more dedication. It's like a video store. Keep that stuff in check, especially when new stuff comes in, new stuff goes out. You can't just let a general crew flow in and out. So I'm sitting there listening to podcasts, trying to think of something, movie after movie, stalking them, and then it just eventually hit me like, what is something that just embodies us in a way that nobody else has really kind of taken a name for? And I realized like we were late to the YouTube game, very late to the YouTube game. When it came to using any sort of equipment, many things and experiences in the fandoms, Doctor Who, very late to Doctor Who, she was already ending. But when it comes to a lot of the things that we had yet to experience, but we were kind of doing it together, like that's where late to the party just got in there. And I was like, we're late to the party. Like there's a party going on and we just got here. We're about to begin.
Which is ironic because I hate being late to things.
We are early to the party any chance we get.
Yeah.
It's true, but late is referring to something completely different.
Right.
It's referring to the fact that we showed up late to the game.
Right.
But man, we got the
But
party
I mean,
going.
now it feels like we're kind of like not late to the game anymore, because there are newer, like every time we go on YouTube, we feel like there's newer people like starting what we're doing too. So it's like,
Sure.
oh, maybe we're not that late.
Yeah, it's true.
You
yeah.
were late to the party at the time, but
Yeah.
now
Sure.
it's like there's like a whole new set, and the game
Yeah.
looks very different
Sure.
than when even you all
Right.
started. But
Yeah, and
At least we
absolutely.
coined our name, and it just kind of went down the conveyor
Granted,
belt.
there's always people, wait, you're not late, you're early.
I
Or
love
you
it.
should change it to early to the party. And
Ah.
it's like, no, we'll keep it late to the party. That's
But
Yeah.
it's great. It's a great excuse when we want to procrastinate. So
true.
check the name. Badge. Late to the party. We're
I
just
love
on
that.
time. We're right on time.
The wizard is never late, nor is he early.
That's true.
Was
Lord
that
of the
in
Rings.
Australia?
He arrives precisely when he means to.
Gandalf.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I know some Lord of the Rings.
Wait, how do you know about Gandalf? I read it.
It's okay.
in
Danny's
1935.
just as lost in this whole part of the conversation right now.
Really?
Well, first of all, you did an Australian accent, so that really
That's
threw
true.
me off.
That was a very bad impression of Gandalf. I'll give you that.
A wizard is never late. That's what it just sounded like.
That was like Irish.
Hey,
Boyle.
oh, the wizard. Arr.
Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Any other questions, Danny? I've got
I
another
thought
one
you-
over here.
I thought, yeah, ask your question.
Okay. So, leading into sort of, you all have said, you pretty much spend all your time together. You go to work, you live together, all that jazz. I know that you have all, as I understand it, reached a point where one of you is working full time and the other is really just kind of working full time on this. So, what was it like getting to that point of the process, and when did you kind of know you were in a place to make that decision?
Ooh, I think that was kind of like the end goal when we like started feeling like there was momentum happening with the channel, and we saw like a lot of the other like of our friends, like the Real Rejects, when that's their job, like they're at home and they do that, and we were like, oh, we could do that because one, they live in California and yet they could do it, and we're like, well, we're in Arizona, so that's a very big
leg up.
possibility.
The cost is
Yeah, right. So it's a very big possibility that we could do that. So I think it was roughly around when we hit like 80,000
Right.
is when we were like, oh, we're almost to 100,000. Like that's when, things could probably start to pick up. And then I think it was just perfect timing. It happened a little earlier than we wanted to, but it made sense to do it at that time, especially for you.
Yeah, because I don't take no crap from people at work,
Yeah.
big corporations that think they can run the show and treat you the way they
Did you
want to
get
treat
yourself fired?
you. Absolutely not, but I quit gloriously
No.
Good,
and put in my 2 weeks notice.
Like one of those great like firing stories.
Quitting stories.
I love a good quitting story when
Sure.
they're like,
I hope to have one myself one day.
Yeah.
And I had one, man. It was glorious. And it's
Yeah.
still, man, I'll still hold my head high when I see that, if I ever come across that director.
to
But
the point where it's like, if that director left, you could probably still go.
oh,
back.
absolutely. I don't want to. I don't. The corporation is already seated in it for that place. Not the same, but yeah, it's a numbers game. It really just comes down to numbers. Can you financially do it in terms of the content you're outputting? And so, you can't really take it too lightly. It's something that requires a lot of preparedness, conversation, figuring out what could actually happen just by you going and working for yourself, doing content creation. And it really just came down to a point, really, again, numbers game. We were at dinner with Star Wars Explained, so Alex and Molly Damon.
Sure.
And Alex and Molly Damon, very, very top tier when it comes to Star Wars conversation on YouTube.
Yeah.
And content. They're killers. And I asked them, like, well, when did you realize, what was that moment where you can work from home? At least one of you work from home. And he said 100K, 100,000 subscribers. Once you hit 100,000 subscribers, you're good. You're putting money in the bank. You're able to make it work. And it turns out, that's an easy number. That's a nice, easy number to pick, 100K. But you can do it at 80, apparently. You could probably do it at
you
70.
can do it halfway 80 because
Sure.
one of us still works full time.
100%. It's
Yeah,
not
it does
full.
help
It's-
that.
It's a
Yeah.
transition. So when it comes down to it, man, you got to be ready for the type of workload that you're going to receive and the motivation to drive yourself to complete it. So just got to stay on top of it because it is your job now. And, there's moments of just nonstop editing and work with, gaps of just quietness and trying to come up with, just different things, topics, content, posts on social media to come up with. But it does get to a point though where your passion is what drives it, and if your passion is what's keeping you moving and going and making some moves out in the world of whatever field you're trying to work in, because it is a game. You're playing a game amongst other peers, creators, critics. Like you are working for yourself. And we've always been working for it. So we've been busting our butt while we both had full-time jobs, overtime filled jobs in the past. So it's we didn't do it one and then the other. Like the channel has been a job the same exact way. Maybe there's a couple more TV show reactions on the channel, but everything else is functioning the same exact capacity that we've been doing it since day one.
Right.
Since day one.
So ultimately it's just like you created more time in your day because you're just still doing the same amount of work for this. It's just you cut out the other thing. You had the benefit of now being able to cut out the other thing. So how does that feel to have that release or that relaxation since June or whenever it was that you got to have to do that?
It feels like I now work a job, like a normal job, and I'm not working two jobs.
Sure.
Like it feels like I'm not working two jobs now. Now, when I worked at the other place, I was there till 11 o'clock at night, going in at 1 p.m. So here, so sometimes I'm up at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. Sometimes I don't go to bed till 5 in the morning because something dropped at 1 a.m. So now I'm all over the place, but I already was all over the place when I was going 1 to 11, 5 days a week, It's great to have that downtime, to not feel stressed that I have to go home and now I've got to stay up for the next 3 hours because we have to shoot a show reaction and I got to edit it and get it up tonight. So now I was off during the day and then I got to do a show reaction and stay up all night. So it just kind of made it more livable. So I'm always around.
You don't have to like pull your hair out.
Sure. Now you're pulling your hair out though. I'm always here.
Well, congratulations on being able to do that and having so many followers. That's amazing. So
very impressive.
Yeah, we are impressed with you too.
You can too.
Anyway, then what do you think the secret is for the two of you navigating, balancing that interaction? So that, one of you's at home, one of you's working, you do all the content together, you have to do things together. So to give an example, Danielle and I used to work at the same institution, and we discovered early on that we did not work well because our relationship over here was kind of interacting and interfering with our professional relationship over here.
We were in conflict in our professional relationship just by the nature of our job. I was a disability services coordinator. I fought for the students. Nick was a professor. He fought for the academics. So we butted heads a few times.
I feel like that makes it sound like academics and professors are against students, and I don't love that. But I do think that we had different core purposes to our jobs.
Yes.
And yes, that they do not coincide very well all the time.
Just like Romeo and Juliet, man, coming from two different houses.
So do you have any of that? What's it look like for you all?
We live in the same apartment. We work in the same apartment.
Yeah, I work from home.
So we're
we're here 24/7, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And
I mean, you were already taking plenty of naps, but now the naps I get to watch them as I'm doing other things.
There are definitely times where I'm like, I need moments to myself.
Sure. Yeah, and she's got like
I get those moments when I'm like, you could go take the dog out for a walk. Like,
no. There's a prep, there's a preparedness that we typically do before we film. And it's she's got her area, that's where she works, she's got her desk and all that. And she'll do her makeup and listens to her music, and she's in there for a good hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on however long she needs.
Just listening to the music, though.
Sure, yeah, no, and I feel like that gets you in the mood. It gets you in the mindset. Because again, you're turning it on. You're turning on the energy. It's so hard to just go go, go, go. And there's only certain things that can immediately pull the enthusiasm and energy out of us. For instance, if a Spider-Man trailer dropped right now, I'd be able to switch gears and we are hyped, we were excited. But we didn't have to do that. They told us that made life easier. But you take those moments, any moments you can find, just to yourself. And the thing is, it's like we're not completely dependent on each other. Like she'll play a video game, I'll be watching something in the room, I'll be over here on the computer doing research, building, editing. I'm editing at nighttime. She's doing whatever. It doesn't, I don't see a necessity to have to, structure ourselves apart, because we're already structured in a way that we can do whatever we want to do, and because usually we ain't asking for much. So you go back to like the olden days, like always what you people get bored, or they just get so aggravated by the other person that it just boils over. And I saw it with my family growing up.
I think what works well with us too is like we have the mentality of like
nonchalance.
Yeah, like we're just like, let's we don't have like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. We're kind of just like, oh, you're gonna do that? Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this instead. Like I'm gonna do something else. Or
very nonchalant, very laid back.
Yeah, very laid back.
And I don't think I could say that about either one of us, and I feel like that's a source of tension. Neither one of us is like, yeah, you go do your thing. Very much so. Very much so. So that's awesome. And it makes a lot of sense how that helps it function.
Jealous.
Yes, I am. Well, should we get into our last segment before we get to move into the movie?
We're talking about a movie still.
Oh yeah. So what is our last segment, Danielle?
Well, Nick, it's called Closer Through Science. Hashtag Closer Through Science. And what is Closer Through Science?
You can't tell that we've done this more than 25 times.
I
That's
know.
Okay.
I always forget the name of it.
Closer Through Science.
Yeah, what is it?
So Closer Through Science is where we take some questions that were developed by actual legitimate researchers, scientists even, and these questions are shown to prove that as people speak to each other about these questions and answer them to each other, they end up being closer to each other afterwards. So we get closer to our guests, they get closer to our listeners by digging deep, and we are getting deeper into the questions now. So we're going to go ahead and ask this of Late to the Party, as if anything we've talked about wasn't deep enough already. And Danny, what do we got?
Okay. Y'all ready? If you were going to...
Are you all ready for this? Dun, 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 dun,
if you were going to become a close friend with us, Dani and Nick, I lost my place. What was I saying? Please share what would be important for us to know.
So what would be important for us to know if we were going to become your close friends?
That's a weird question.
Apple or Android? I already know the answer. Now
that's why we're friends, because I'm anti-Apple.
We understand we disappear.
He's anti-Apple. I'm more of like I don't really care. I go Samsung. I go Apple.
She flips.
I do flip.
Nonchalant.
Yeah, it's like it depends on like what am I in the mood for at this time.
Sure.
You have multiple phones?
No.
When
a contract
we still had a contract, but like I had Samsung and then I moved over to iPhone because technically I probably won't, but I got bored with Samsung, and so I just went back to iPhone. But before that, I got bored with iPhone, so that's why I went to Samsung. So, yeah.
I've got multi-console emulators on my phone from like every generation. Did you
I like
that?
the physical stuff.
No, Android all the way. No, really, honestly, when it comes down to it, something that you would just have to know, just as friends with us, and I think a lot of our friends do know, whether they resent us for it or not, secretively, they can come out and say it, but you got to understand we're gonna disappear. Like we get very focused, and we just kind of go. Granted, if you lock us down, like if you say, hey, come do this, or we're going to have this. And if we're free, we do it. We'll be there. We'll be there. And like many other people, you're like, the day of, I don't want to go. But you go, and when you get there, you have a good
You have a
time.
good time. You're like, oh, that was nice. Glad we went.
But yeah, we don't break plans, and typically we won't break plans, but we won't make plans if we feel like there's a possibility that we could end up breaking them. If we're unsure of something, we put it out in the forefront. If this happens when this is supposed to happen, we're going to be somewhere else, unfortunately. Just got to let you know. For instance, Spider-Man trailer.
Right.
Spider-Man trailer. Very, very...
Trailers in general.
Sure. Just trailers. Certain trailers. Like, that's our work. That is, our alert.
Very spontaneous when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Our call to action, if you will, when it comes to needing to show up for a paycheck. This is our livelihood. But yeah, that's just something we're kind of on call.
Sure.
For the most part, to media. I mean, it sounds so bougie and bourgeois, like freaking, Mr. Fancy Pants on call to movies and trailers. Like, no, that's like, damn it, I gotta get home and watch the new Lord of the Rings TV show trailer. Like, we gotta do it. And we will, and we'll act that way when it's like, we gotta go, I gotta get home.
I gotta get home.
We love spending time with everyone
schedule.
Whenever we can, but yeah, we tend to very quickly. So just understand, we're flighty. We're peacocks. You got to let us fly.
All right. Well, you heard it, listeners. If you ever have the joy to become friends with late to the party, science now tells you that you just have to be ready for them to ghost you from time to time.
Yeah.
Noted.
Great way. Ghost dad, man.
But it's not like because we want to ghost it. It's just more so we're focusing on something else.
That's fair.
I guess we're focusing on what our stuff.
Paycheck. Now I could just say paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah, for you.
I need to get paid. I need to get paid. Y'all get a 9 to 5. I get a whenever Sony decides to drop it, and Disney and
talk about our movie, or go to break before we talk about our movie, because our movie is a movie, and it includes a very interesting job that people do, sometimes unexpected at the drop of a hat. What movie is that, late to the party? What are we going to be talking about?
Dun, 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 dun. Inception.
I was going to do like the whole boom. And then she went like the town crier with the horns. A Knight's Tale. No, it's Inception.
Double copies there, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
They both are, for the listeners who are not watching us, they're each holding up their own copy on Blu-ray of the movie, and we are going to hear more about why that is the case.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just after this break.
In love with movies.
And we're back.
Welcome back, movie lovers. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And now we are going to get to talk about everyone's favorite mind trip movie, Inception. Inception. So some quick opening credits about this film, just some bona fides. I think most people are probably familiar with it, but it came out in 2010. It is written and directed by the famous Christopher Nolan. Those of you who have been following us long enough, you might know that we actually are pretty big fans of a lot of his work, especially some of the earlier stuff. Prestige is one of the first movies I made Danielle watch that she actually was like, movies can be good and make me think things. So that is where we're going further down this path with Inception. And, in terms of who acts in it, there's just beyond all-star cast, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ken Watanabe, Elliot Page, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, I didn't know who Tom Hardy was watching this movie, so it was interesting to now, 10 years later, have an idea of who Tom Hardy is in my head and be watching it. Anyway, Marion Cotillard, Cillian Murphy, Michael Caine, and Tom Berenger, who people might know from Major League if you don't just immediately know Tom Berenger's name. All right, so that is our opening credits. And before we get to our love stories...
Oh, what's before that?
Everyone's favorite segment.
Oh, I always forget about this part.
Time for Danny's Dingle.
Time for Danny's Dingle. Okay, man, I'm not ready for this one because this is a tough movie. Okay.
I was very much anticipating our little spoken word summary of the film from Danny. This is great.
Here we go. Okay. Confusion.
And that's it. All right, that is the only summary that we have from Dani. Just love it. Perfect.
That's all I got right now because this movie makes my head itch. Like not
My head
my head,
itch,
my brain,
not hurt. My head itch.
my brain itch sometimes.
Just give it a
Love
good
it.
scratch, girl. It's gonna take multiple rewatches upon multiple rewatches.
Yeah, and I have a feeling you guys are gonna open my brain in the next few minutes or so to some things.
So
We're
I'll
still
give quick
unlocking things
versions.
about this movie.
Yes, and I will give therefore a quick version of our love stories, our own love stories, Dani, you and I. So you had seen it one other time before.
Yeah, can I wait? I was prepared to share my love story with this the first time.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I saw this in the theaters in 2010, but I went on a forced date where I used to do this thing where I would force boys to date me. Because
I'm familiar.
and this guy, his name was Riley, and he was my brother's age. Me and my brother.
Names changed for safety.
No, his name was really Riley. And I also had just gotten my wisdom teeth out, but wanted to drink a Slurpee. But then I was like, oh my gosh, they told you can get dry socket if you use a straw. So I was in the movies trying to be like, Riley, kiss me. And I was thinking about him trying to kiss me, but he didn't. Spoiler alert. And then also I was concerned about the Slurpee, and I spilled the blue Slurpee all over myself. So I don't think I remember most of this movie, not because, well, I remember it being confusing, but also because I was covered in Slurpee and worrying about Slurpee.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, your mind went elsewhere. You were focused on the more bigger problem of that situation.
Yeah, so that was the only time I've ever seen this movie besides when we watched it the other night.
That opens my eyes so much. I had I knew she'd only seen it once and that she hated it basically, and therefore I did not know this whole story that gives an explanation and backstory as to why you have such terrible connections, memories, and didn't understand a damn thing. I wouldn't have understood a damn thing about this movie either if I'd been in the situation you just described. So mine is, I think I saw it in theaters. I've seen it several times since then. It had been 10 years since I last watched it, which is why I was actually very excited that you all made us watch it. But I want to get to you all's love story. Why did you pick this movie for us? What is your history with it?
It went back to the whole like being at Best Buy and going through the like music, and
she's trying to remember.
I'm trying to remember.
She's like, why did we pick this movie? I don't know.
What did we pick this
Why
movie
did we
for?
pick this movie?
Why did we pick
Because
this movie?
Robert incepted me.
I sure did. I planted the kernel. So
It was my idea.
So to regale you of the memory of Inception. This is your day off, man. It's all clouded up there. You should see her rocking the phones. I hear the keyboard clack 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 clack. I'm like so much of that's got to be wrong. Most of that's got to be backscape, right? It's like she's
I'm pretty good with the keyboard.
I know. I can hear it. Like I'm like, holy shit. Like how is she? She's like Pam over here. Just what is it? 26 is fast. Inception. So at the time that Inception came out was the time that we talked about where we said we were kind of in similar living situations, but the living situations partnered us up together. And with those endless nights, because one, the cars broke down at the same exact time, it was just weird situation. And one of those movies that we retreated to was Inception, and it wasn't even just Inception, it was more importantly the score, Hans Zimmer. So
such a good score.
am I starting to light your fires? Am I starting to
I'm
jumpstart the brain?
Why
starting to get a little
I have
cooking?
a copy and why you have a copy.
Okay, so with Inception, see, she has. I should have clued her in.
I remember we had the copy. I totally forgot why we got
even better. I'm going to incept your mind right now. So Inception was the final movie where we came in separately with a thing that we love.
Okay.
Ever since Inception, we've bought one copy of every single movie or media that has ever been purchased since Inception, when we brought them together.
The media collections were joined after that point.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That's right. So That's why every time it's on the bookshelf, I see the 2 Inceptions. We've got 3 Back to the Futures. You don't want to even get into that story.
One of them is not even ours. We just
we get them.
We got
people just send them to you,
and I'm not getting rid of any of them. Okay, it's Back to the Future. I will take every copy. Of Back
2
to
copies
the Future.
Blu-ray, 1 is 4K.
I still wish I had my VHS Weekend at Bernie's. That would be awesome. And Weekend at Bernie's too. That was recorded though. Did I answer your question about these? So yeah.
And so how many times do you think that you all have seen this movie? I'm just curious.
I think it's funny that we didn't actually see the movie in theaters together.
Nope.
We saw it separately.
Sure.
But we have the.
Hence, you have 2 different copies.
This is when we ended up watching them together.
Yeah, this is when we were like, oh yeah, let's be together. We got 2 copies, and then after that, we did buy everything 1 copy.
And the it came down to conversation, man. It was the conversation, it was the analysis, it was the intricacy of the levels, the design of the levels, not just in terms of like, oh, we're in a dream now. It's like, no, like you looking at the buildings, like you looking at the sets, or you looking at like this and how the characters act and the drones inside these dreams and how they're attacking, they're defending. Like if you're just look at it, and you got Tom Berenger, man. Come on, Tom Berenger, so happy when he showed up.
I think it also stemmed to when the movie came out, everyone was talking about it. They had their theories and stuff, but then we would also add the score to it. And a lot of times, like the people that we were hanging out with at the time, that wasn't really like at the forefront when they were talking about the movie. They would just talk about the movie and like the story and the plot and stuff. But we would be like, oh, the way that they used this song in this scene or this song in this scene, like it worked. And I love that. Hans Zimmer did a great job with that soundtrack.
And getting to watch it, it drove us to watching Hans Zimmer live in concert. Yeah. Drove to San Diego just specifically to watch that show. Great. And
we have a poster of Inception in our living
room. That's awesome.
If you go
so
back
you all bonded on like not just movies, but the music in movies, and both of you had a passion for music and a passion for movies.
That's why they beat us at Settle the Score. There's no other reason, just that.
Gave us a run for our money, man. I'm scared. Like I was genuinely scared.
Well, when we were talking about how, like, when we were younger, we listened to the score for movies, and how our friends just didn't understand why we would be listening to the musical score versus like the songs, like the popular songs that they would use. So,
which we did listen to as well.
We listened to those too, but it was just more so about the actual score.
Sure.
I remember.
I think we were talking about Men in Black. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to.
Oh yeah, but, no,
perfect segue.
Yeah, we had talked about that, where the 2 of you, like everyone wanted the version of that CD that had, the pop.
Here comes the Man in
Black. Which I never realized it. Rewatch Big, the song, the old school song, is just a remake, and I learned that because of Big. Everything is just reused over and over again. But I love it. I was tapping my toe. I was jamming to the Men in Black song, but I was also rocking to that Danny Elfman-ish. Yes. All of it, every track. The final track is so gorgeous, good. Leading into the Men in Black. Oof. Yeah, that's in a nutshell the experience with Inception.
That is awesome.
Creeping over our lives.
Yeah, I really, really, spoiler alert, I liked this movie a lot. And I didn't even think about the score, but I feel like that just adds so much to the feelings you're having while you're going through it. And it's just like, so you're so into the story, and it's because the score is putting you there.
Of course.
So. Yeah, like as you all were telling that story, I don't know the score well enough to like specifically think of all of the notes and everything that were playing, but that moment in the movie, like I just think about that moment in the movie, and it's like I can almost hear the music kind of rising in the back of my consciousness, and I can then immediately picture and overlay it onto this experience that you were talking about, running around killing zombies. I'm like, yes, I totally understand how that would be like a thing, and it just perfectly in sync. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of music.
Oh, it does some amazing stuff. It does some amazing stuff, and it hits hard.
And then after that, we like didn't really play zombies.
Pinnacle. We reached the top.
Not gonna be better.
Great. Let's not do that again.
Reached the top. It was over. I haven't played Nazi zombies since.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it.
Did you have something you wanted to say? You keep looking at your notebook.
Oh, well, I was just reviewing my notes. So rewatch. I think I'm probably the one who watched this the least. Maybe.
Probably. I mean, I'm sure you all have seen it more than twice. Yes.
Yes.
We don't even need to get into how many. I know that like
100?
it's yeah.
Over 100. It
Yeah,
felt like we were
it's
watching it
definitely more
every
than
week.
twice.
Wow.
There's.
I saw it in theaters twice.
You guys are
This is
hearing.
what you have to see this movie. You're not even really seeing this movie until you're seeing it the second time, in my opinion.
There is a lot, and there is some stuff in there that's very stylized, stylistic, but I don't want to say CG wise. Certain aspects that are just don't hit with me, but then you throw in practicality on every level, practicality on the sets, how they built, how they shot that hallway
hotel
scene,
scene.
and watching the behind the scenes. I implore you, watch the behind the scenes. You got Joseph Gordon-Levitt there showing him in the harness, going through the hall because he's doing all of this, and the way they shot it and filmed it, just love and a love letter to just filmmaking. And that's where it was like, goddamn, that it's such a powerful scene to watch it even more now, to know the intricacy to get those kinds of shots. Hits it out of the park. And granted, there's aspects for me that slow down a bit for me. So I'm like, all right, I get it, Ma. Like, stop being crazy.
Right? Like, I've seen you before. I know what your shtick is. Why are you spending so much time on camera?
You're ruining everything but Marion Cotillard. And that's the first time I believe I've seen Marion Cotillard in really anything.
I think that's like the first time. I'm sure there's other ones like before, but that's like the first time that you really
that's who this is.
This person is.
Like you said, Tom Hardy as Eames. Like Tom Hardy. Oh, just you mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
Yes.
That was very funny.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt right there, right next to him.
Like
That's huge right there. That's huge.
What a
Angels in the outfield.
We've already covered Angels in the Outfield on this podcast. You'll have to go back and listen to that episode.
I'm very happy that you did. It deserves conversation. Very happy that you did. We covered it on our channel too. Better
new listeners.
Old school. We talked about
the new one. About like remakes of like movies that have been remade, but we'll talk about the older movie because Angels in the Outfield was actually a remake.
Black and white.
Very different, judging from the breakdown or the description of the two.
Very different movie.
But at the same time, it's great to know the history. It's great to know that it's there. So I love that you guys covered it too.
And so what were you about to say, Daniel?
Oh, well, okay. I'm like the least movie person here.
Guide the conversation. We love it.
When you turned on this movie and the opening shot is like that rock and the water, and he's like
on the beach head. Yeah,
he's like face down in the water, right? And then I was like, okay, yeah, I do remember this movie. And then I think like 20 minutes in, I turned to Nick. I was like, pause it for a second. I was like, did he kill his kids? He killed his kids, right? And Nick was like, no, that's another Leonardo DiCaprio movie. But for the first 20 minutes of this movie, I thought this was Shutter Island because it's kind of got the same vibes.
I got it.
But okay, that was my. But then I felt good about myself. I was like, oh my god, I remember this. This is brilliant. And then I was very wrong.
This does remind me though, because as we were talking about that, we ended up getting into this conversation a little bit. Because one of my first notes was, because it had been 10 years since I watched this, I wrote down like, I forgot just how confusing and disorienting the first, 5 to 10 minutes of this movie are.
They my brain hurts.
Do anything to help. Like, it is just stuff has happening. And obviously, as you've now watched it, spoilers, everyone knows this. It's really like you're at the end kind of in the beginning, and you have, that's the reason why it's disorienting. But even then, when it kind of cuts to him and Seto, at other times, like you don't know what's going on. You don't understand. Why is it the same scenes? And I mentioned, it occurred to me for the first time ever, because I am a fan of a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies, but I think, a bigger fan of ones that are like The Prestige and other movies that actually start off like you think you know exactly what's going on. It's a straightforward, obvious thing, and it's only as the movie goes on that you then start to realize, oh shit, I had no idea what was going on. I have no concept of what's happening in the background. As opposed to ones like this that are sort of, we're just going to start off with you having no idea what's happening, and then you start to get it unwound later on. I prefer it the other way.
I disagree.
Okay.
It pays off. This one pays off at the end.
She's like, you're wrong.
When they cut back to that scene, I literally said out loud to you, I said, oh, yeah, that's the scene from the beginning. So for me, the whole time I was on the edge of my seat because I was like, there's something I have to figure out these things. And then at the end, they reveal it to you. So I thought that was great. You know what scene I remember the most? And maybe it's because they see it a lot. I don't know. Is it in pop culture a lot? The bathtub, where he just gets pushed into the bathtub. The chair into the bathtub.
Sure.
That's just like always been in my brain. I think about it a lot. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, it's from this movie.
It's discombobulation.
I just like the intricacy of the way that Nolan likes to tell his stories. Like they're very similar. Same
feel.
They do have the same feel. I do like the ones that you're like where you're confused and then you start to get it as you're watching the movie and then you're like, oh, I know what it is, and then you get to the end and you know, like that's what, because I'm like, yes, I got it.
Sure.
Like that's like one of my things that I like to do. But I also like the other way too, where it's like you think you know what's going on, and then you get to the middle of the movie, you're like, oh
yeah,
this is nothing what I thought it was gonna be, and then you get to the end, you're like,
shit,
wait, what? So that was kind of how Prestige was to me too.
Yeah.
It took me a couple viewings of that movie to really realize what was going on, especially with Hugh Jackman's character.
Dude.
And then eventually you're like, oh, I mean, it was still great to watch it, but yeah, it's like, oh, okay, that's what's going on.
She evoked it out of me. So I was far more confused by the end of Prestige than I was starting out with Prestige versus Inception, where I'm confused in the beginning and I'm not confused at all in
You
the
like
end.
to flip it.
But
You did a
holy
memento.
hell, I had to watch Prestige the next day to just because I was like, time to throw on the loop. Time to
But
figure
then
it
I
out.
also got confused. I think it was also because another movie came out around the same time too, was The Illusionist.
Sure.
So that, and then I got those two movies mixed up.
Sure.
Later on, I'm like, wait, I'm so confused. Like, is this not it? I'm like, where's Edward Norton? Why isn't he in this movie? Yeah, so that's what got me too.
See, and I just avoided it altogether, and I can't watch it because I'm like,
I
oh,
watched
Prestige.
The Illusionist years later and
Yeah.
like watched it just to be like, oh, it was that other one. And then all I thought to myself was like, I'm glad that the first one of these two movies that I watched was The Prestige. Like
Sure.
between the two, one of them is more worthy.
Can
And
I
that's
say why?
I was just going to say one of the question that we ended up having during Settled the Score when it came to the Prestige, it's because it's really because of the love for Inception. Like I love Prestige, but Inception made me go back to the music because I was like, maybe I need to go back and listen to the music a little bit more because I feel like I didn't really listen to it much in Prestige. Correct. Damn, I forgot his name. I said it during the show. Who?
No, it's not Hans
David Julian.
David Julian.
Okay,
David Julian.
Prestige.
And like that appreciation kind of set back in. So when that song played during Settle the Score, like that was rang the bell of the Inception, my friend.
Because he also did Cabin in the Woods.
And Cabin in the Woods. Holy crap, man.
Oh
All
my
right.
gosh.
That was a good one.
Those are posters on the back wall. Go back and watch our old videos, and there's Cabin in the Woods and there's Inception. Been that way since the beginning. It's still that way right now.
Wow, you're just at a different angle.
It's true. Yeah, it's so much easier. All the gears over here.
So I was gonna say, I think the reason that this movie, so let me take a step back. I don't like movies that make me think. I like movies where I can turn off my brain
Sure.
because the world is hard, you know? So I like stupid, funny, or singing, you know? That's my shit. Or
entertaining.
woman power, yes. But this movie gives you no choice but to like I said, sit on the edge of your seat, listen in. And the thing that really got me was when Leonardo DiCaprio is explaining to Elliot Page, sorry, I can't remember their character names.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Dom. Is his name Dom or Tom?
Cobb,
Cobb.
like the salad.
But we do
But
think
she calls him Dom.
his name is Thomas, I think Thomas Cobb. And so some people call him Tom at different
Okay.
points.
Anyways,
Should have
when
gone by Tom Cobb. Tom Cobb. to the
Tom
rescue.
Cobb.
I just go by Cobb too because of the need to live, Mr. Cobb.
Yeah, it's Cobb.
Yeah.
When he's explaining the facts about dreaming to Elliot's character, all of them were legit to me. I was like, no, that does make sense. You do always just end up in the middle of a dream, and like
Sure.
all of it, I was like, this can totally be real because everything that you're explaining to me is rooted in reality, and so that's what made me love it even more. Where I was like, I know this isn't real, but is it?
Yeah, like the only real leap of faith is the idea that, okay, I missed it until I think this time. They have some throwaway line in there about like, that is why the government first developed the technology to be in dreamscapes or something like that. And it was like training for people to be able to like basically torture or kill each other and have it not be a thing that they actually were killing anyone.
And I think the other really real part of this movie is that the whole reason they do Inception is for money. Like, money is the motivator because...
Got to get them dollar bills.
Sure.
Saito.
The other thing that I really like too was like when they're trying to infiltrate Killian's character, and he has security protocols like in his brain, like in his mind, so that way if this does happen, that there are security measures for them to go out like and take them out in the dream. Like I love that. I was like, oh, he's got like his own antivirus in his brain.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool too.
I thought that gets into what I thought was just it's not my branch of, but the study of the mind, psychology, is a little bit of my science. And something I noted is the sort of subconscious and the fact that the whatever they call them, the manifestations of one's subconscious.
Sure.
The idea that you could like kind of have subconscious training, almost like we do things now to try to sort of train or get our subconsciouses used to things. And like, yeah, I could totally see how that would work the same way if you had this science. And then it also ties to me. This time I kind of had a deeper thought in terms of Marion Cotillard. Mal. So Mal. The fact that she, once you realize that she is just a manifestation of Cobb's subconscious, like you don't, in fact, JGL gives that line of like, what was the real Mal like? Oh, she was a lovely person. Although obviously the Mal that we see is like, oh, horrible things are about to happen. Every time you see this woman, something bad is about to take place. And it is, I think, the interesting from the get-go, I've noticed her theme is his subconscious trying to sabotage like anything good in his life. It is his own subconscious trying to sabotage good things. And then he talks later on about feelings of guilt and survivor's remorse and things. And it makes me realize, like, as someone who has battled with depression, it's like, oh, that's what that is. To some degrees. It's like he's so depressed, he's so down on things, he's so upset about his life. His subconscious is just like, nah, just don't stop trying. Like, just let go. Let it happen. Sabotaging every good thing that he's trying to do, and his subconscious is like just kicking that out of the way. And I thought that was a deeper level that I thought was fascinating that I'd not noticed before.
It's a physical representation of the pain and darkness that you carry with you, but in a dreamscape. To us, everything, it's clear as day, right? Like we can see everything that's happening on, but you got to figure in a dream there's a cloud over it. And you're in control, but you're not in control. And those that are in control are the ones that are trained to be in control when they're in there. So I feel like, granted, we're looking at a very polished look at this world where it's like Christopher Nolan, which he tends to do, is like, let's make it more realistic and reality type based. Let's ground it. What would it look like in a grounded reality of what you're looking at? That's what you get with Inception.
Right.
But you have to understand that there is a cloud over it, and that cloud is what's causing, and that's what's making the fight that much more dire in terms of when they're dying, when people get hit and they're carrying the bullet through each dreamscape.
Yes.
Like you just it becomes a very polished look at what that would be like in your mind when you're dreaming. So yeah, the darkness that he does carry, of course, like throw it through that cloud wash, man, and on the other end it's going to come out looking like Maul, causing all these negative steps and just what he's trying to do in his life for his mind, which in result comes down to money. Again, it's getting home. It's trying to get home to his kids, but you carry that subconscious with you, that dangerous one, and it gets bad.
Yeah,
That's
but
why he can't build anymore.
Yeah, but Mal, when you finally figure out or remember what happened to her, it is freaking dark. Like, it's that sad. Is heartbreaking. And Leo's performance in that moment where he like turns away and then just like, Jesus, like, oh, that gave me like shivers of how good of an actor he was, and how like we were talking about last time we saw this. Obviously I was not in love, I was in Slurpee, And Nick wasn't, I don't think, in love either. And so, like, we saw it from a different lens this time, being married and being, like, very in love with each other, of how heartbreaking that would be. Nick even turned to me at one point. He's like, if I was able, like, if I lost you and was able to, like, find you in my dreams, obviously I would spend a shit ton of time there because, like, that you're a part of me. And so then when it unfolds of what actually happened to her, it's just even more like, damn, like, that. It's just rough. It's tough.
It goes to that one scene too where they're going to find the chemist that they're looking for, and all those people are just laying there in their dreams, and it's like that they come for hours and hours, and I'm sure that some of them probably lost people, and that's why they're in those dreams, because they want to be there. Like, that's their that's their escape from what they're feeling in the real world, and they much rather be in this dream world instead.
The dream is their world now. Who are you to say otherwise? I think that was the quote. But
depends on
it dives deep into that, that sickness. It is an issue of just mental health when it comes down to it, and seeing she already wasn't going, like, she wasn't going to go back. Well, and he had to convince her. That's the problem, man. Like, she lived in the reality.
He did Inception a little too.
She lived in the reality. Yeah, she lived in the reality, man, and it sucks because it's like it's just a sickness that grabbed a hold of your mind, and unfortunately, to fix that, he inceptioned that the only way we're going to get out is if we do this, and that just stuck. And then it just stuck
with her.
And that just stuck.
It's a
worker. That was something that dawned on me this time, and I see you looking a little confused.
Yeah, I get lost in that part.
The sort of poetic justice of the fact that, like, it was the reason he incepted her before, he even necessarily knew what it was because she was already lost in the dream, was doing that and wanted to stay there, never wanted to go anywhere else. And he's like, no, we need to go. And it's like the irony and the beauty and the tragic beauty of the only way to get her to get out ended up being the thing
that killed her.
Yeah, that killed her. Because like to get her to get out, he planted that idea, but then that idea stuck with her even after they were out.
Correct.
So was he in limbo and then incepted her? So he went into a dream, and it embedded the idea inside of her.
Well, they were both in limbo, and when they left limbo, she carried the idea from limbo
but in limbo
all the way to the end. All the way to the end. They woke up.
Convince her that it was her idea, that they had to leave. Like, the only way out was for them to die so that they can come back to the real world.
Right, which is the idea.
Which was that idea. But yeah, when he was in limbo, like, he had to find a way to convince her from there. And they kind of raised over that, but
they race all that. Well, it turns out, like, if you just train your people that if they fall into limbo to just kill themselves, like, it's a training tactic, you'll be fine, because apparently that's how you get out of limbo and you wake up. So they ride all the way to the top by doing that, by dying in limbo.
Right, but it's like, how did he convince her? Since they're already in limbo, he didn't have the equipment to, like, did he go into her mind during limbo?
Just talking to her. It's just
so because he's already in the mind.
How did they get? How did they get Fisher? How they get Fisher to do what he did? They put a little thing inside the safe, and he pulled it out, and he felt love for his father.
That's true.
It could be simple.
He took out, and that's where the totem.
Yeah, that's the representation. That's the visual representation of locking the totem.
Yeah, so she locked it away because she didn't want to think about it anymore. Sure. She wanted to stay there, and he had to take it and say, "Hey, no, look, we need to leave."
Sure. There's so much to it, and that's the beauty of it. And that's the tragedy. That's the tragedy.
I love that too, where she's like, "You told us you were gonna grow old together," and then he's like, "But we did."
Yeah. And then they show him as old people. Oh my god.
Yeah, there were two moments I cried watching this time. It was the we're killing each other on the train as old people, and the when she first plummeted.
Yeah. That's the gravitas that this film comes with, Yeah. And in that sound, the music and the sound design. I think they even won an Oscar for sound design. I'm pretty sure sound design, sound mixing. And they ended up like just that scene where she drops. Like, and the scream, like, like your heart just drops with her. And everything about it just falls with Maul. And it's heartbreaking. And the way they interlace it in the story, especially later in the movie, when you start getting the reveals of what's going on with her and how Inception works and that he's done it before, Yeah, that definitely adds that tragic aspect to the tale.
Yeah. And then the other part of this movie, and you said this too, it's a tragic love story. You're like so into the characters, you want to know what's happening, but also, and again, I only like certain movies. I don't really like action movies, but this is a freaking cool action movie too.
Sure.
Like JGL's
Yeah.
float. I just love that so much. That
Yeah.
it's just float fighting, and then it's just, and then he's tying the people together. That's another image that like never left me either, of just like roping these free floating people. It's just, wow. They did a very, very, very good job, I think, in all the levels, because you're hopping
Sure.
from snow to elevator to
Sure.
free falling. You know, it's just cool.
Trying to keep a production like that together, and you're putting that kind of a movie and putting that kind of money on it. Oh, like you just got to think about that aspect too. That's what I love about Nolan, because he isn't afraid to use, the surroundings to be able to make the story that much better. At the same time, it's also his pitfall for certain aspects of his storytelling. But he does it very well in this one. The action sequences, the car chases, the motorcycle, the rain, how it's all happening in the rain, and then the long-lasting van off the bridge, intertwined with another story.
I just love when like everyone's starting to wake up, and it's like they go wondering, and they're all just like,
it's beautiful,
getting there, and then they like do succeed too at the end, which I like that. But then, it's great. But I also love the comedic timing for certain things too, where it's like, did you guys see that? And they're all sleeping.
Yes.
Yusef, man, the chemist. He does a damn good job. Everyone's got a taste. Everyone's got a piece of the pie, in my opinion, in terms of shining in this movie. Pete Postlethwaite as Fisher, as Big Daddy Fisher, like, oh, dude, that's the last thing I saw him in, and I love him as Roland Tembo in the Lost World, Jurassic Park.
I'm that you wanted, or that you didn't become me. I'm mad because you tried. Oh, it's so heartbreaking because he sees the thing. And you're like, oh. They took it because of a picture that they had. They just implanted that.
Poor guy, he got tricked to thinking Daddy loved him, but Daddy didn't give a shit.
In love with movies. Da-da-da.
Well, and Vanessa, you talked about something that I also picked up on. I do not remember it being funny at all. Like, I don't remember there being comedic beats at all. And this time I was like, how did I not remember the comedy between Tom Hardy and Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Like, they're bickering with each other is just so perfect. I loved it.
And also, it's raining because he had to pee. Did you catch that line?
Yeah.
He's like, really?
Yeah, absolutely. All tied together.
I also like the part too, like when they're getting the gang together, they're trying to get everyone together, and it's mostly Tom Hardy too, when they're sitting in the cafe or whatever, and with Cobb, and he's like, there's people behind me, and he's like gonna go and distract the guy because Cobb has to get away, and he's like, oh, I thought it was you, and then he just, nope, I guess not.
He doesn't even try. He tries, but it doesn't, it's
like
nothing.
It doesn't stick. He's like, oh, that wasn't you.
It's not. Need a lip to Cobb. I mean, there are amazing comedic, so subtle, but very well done.
Tristan Garrett-Levitt too.
Him
and Elliot Page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thing too.
The chemistry is amazing across the board with everybody, to a point where, man, I would love another taste of that world.
Yeah.
And these characters still operating in that world, doing something. Bring Leo back as Cobb. Granted, I feel like his story is over. I would be okay if they carried on without Leo, and they went for it. Directed by Nolan, let's go for it in the same world. But he took him a decade to write Inception, so I'll give him as much time as he needs.
And then he tried to do like a timey-wimey type weird thing with Tenet, and that one is more confusing.
Sure.
I meant to try and watch that before, because I've not yet seen it, but I meant to try and watch that before we spoke, because I thought that could come up. No, I'm with you though. Have Leo in like the Michael Caine role. Like, he's like not actually really happening. He's just someone they come to for questions occasionally, or like guidance in terms of who they should pick up next. So
he's the guy in the chair. He's got the microphone. He's guiding you. He's Alfred, telling you what to do.
So my question.
Danny's got another question.
The old guy at the end is, what's his name? Saki.
Sato.
I keep calling him Saki.
Sato.
That's a little bit.
Sato.
That's like a little bit low key offensive, but not intentional. I know.
It sounds the same.
Sato.
I had a hard time understanding some of the lines from all the actors in this movie. They talk really
There's
quickly.
a little bit of mumbling, and then you've got the amazing music.
But that's him at
Yeah.
the end. The old guy at the end is him.
Yep.
Okay. And then what's brilliant, again, is that they go from that scene to Leo is back with his kids. And so then you're like, you don't know, right? That's the whole point. We don't know if it's real at the end.
Correct. Yeah.
And what do we think? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Vanessa, was he in reality with his kids?
I think he was in reality with his kids, because they do show the totem. But so we got deep dive into these like conversations where, because the top wasn't his like thing, like that was his wife's thing, but yet he used it, like, so he could have had something else, and people were saying that it was the wedding ring that was his.
Oh,
But I still think that he was in reality when he came back.
Robert,
I mean,
do you think so?
the totem functioned properly, even though it wasn't his totem. And yes, his totem is his wedding ring as well. But the totem was more for Maul, because when Maul was around, it would keep spinning. So when he's in reality, he knows Maul's not around because it topples. So getting home, the beauty of that scene is it doesn't matter to him, because he knows, he understands where he is, and he doesn't need the top to tell him whether Maul's around or not. So he spins it and he walks away to go to be with his kids, to see their faces, which he hasn't been able to see.
Because he doesn't want it like tainted, like, oh, I'm not in the dream, and go even further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, he can't live in that dreamscape the way she did.
Yeah.
So leaving the top.
Sorry, go ahead.
Leaving the top spinning for us to see.
And it was kind of toppling. But
it wavers. And not once does that top, when Maul's around, waver. It is new. It is perfect. It is circular, what's the word? It spins in a circle. It goes round and round. Cyclical. There it is. It came to me. Late to the party.
Got to get that branding in there.
Sure, why not? It because of the wavering, just the slight, and even the music does the when it actually happens, and that's why he's awake. It's a happy ending. It's a happy story.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Oh,
for the first time, I think had an idea that occurred to me this time. So, I think the only times we like see it straight up and down is basically when it's in the safe. Like you're saying, it's when Maul's around, but I think he spins it several times when he's not supposed to be in a dream, and it topples. And, when everything's good. But the fact that it could be up and down, I think it's also obviously it was done this way so that people would have these conversations. But I think maybe it didn't fall over. Like, we don't necessarily know. As long as it doesn't fall over completely, it could waver, it could topple. I think, to your point about the beauty of the fact that he walks away, you say that it's that he's so confident that, he's in reality. I could make the argument that his conversations with Maul, and then a little bit with Sato, the idea that she kind of implants the idea, she incepts him back. His own subconscious is now incepting him to the idea that it doesn't matter. Hurting. She says, she's like, how do you know that the reality you so desperately are going back to is reality? Like, that's her whole thing is, you don't know which reality is reality. So his walking away from the top is not that he's confident, it's that he's finally realized it doesn't matter.
Correct. It really doesn't matter to him, because but what you brought up was the reason why her actions against him the entire time that he was in any dreamscape trying to get home she was always a glowing reminder of his mission and what he needed to do. So she did incept him to eventually do what needed to be done to get out. So yes, the actions of her actually did very much drive him to just seeing what happened to her in limbo. Done.
My brain is back to itchy.
Carried it
no more levels.
Or so
we have to go deeper.
Or she stops fighting. Like he's able to go off and be peaceful because he's finally accepted that idea that it doesn't matter. So now Maul doesn't have to keep showing up and messing with his dream because the thing has been accomplished. His dream is that he went back out to reality and then lived his life with perfection with his kids.
What?
Or they're still all dreaming.
Anyway, I actually do think you all are probably correct. I've tended to lean on the, he finally reaches it gets out and he doesn't matter about the
Actually, I thought of one more thing, though.
Uh-oh.
When you do see the kids at the end, they're in the exact same outfits and the exact same position that they are in his vision a million times.
What does the kid say? What does the
There was
kid
also a
say?
thing where he says, "I'm building." What did he say? I'm building a cat.
I built a house.
I built a house. He's saying something, so people are like, "Oh, maybe he is in the dream."
The
But
stuff he says specifically is what is in limbo.
yeah. But
wait, so the young child, the son, is saying exactly what Cobb said in Limbo, basically?
Turn it up as loud as you
But
can.
at the
Listen to what the kid
I know.
says.
But at the same time, they look older too, in my
A
opinion.
house
So
in
I'm
the
like,
sand. That's what he says. I built a house in the sand. And that it's the original house, the first house. And hints. There's still plenty of hints that
He wants you to. That's
It
what
can swing the
Christopher
other way.
Nolan did.
Yeah.
He wanted you to.
Why the
like,
hell would that kid do that?
I
Why
mean,
would they
it
be
was
wearing the same
a
clothes?
great theater experience because I remember when we went, like everybody and pretty much everybody in our theater was like, when it went to black after eating nothing, like everyone literally like was very vocal about being like, no, like, why did it stop? It was great.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a good crowd. I had a good crowd too.
Yeah.
You always want a good crowd when you go to one of these things.
Oh yeah.
But
like when we saw Force Awakens the second time, and everyone finds out that, like, at the hands of your father, Han Solo, you find out that Kylo Ren is Ben Solo,
Spoilers.
and everyone was like, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it was.
great.
It's cool to watch those kinds of reactions for those kinds of moments, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of them in this one for sure.
There was.
And that's why you all press record.
Yeah.
Not always, man. And we
Turn
let
it
some
back.
stuff through the cracks.
There
Yeah.
are some where we're like, damn, we should have recorded that.
Sure. Yeah. It was layered. We had to go deeper. But yeah, so we watched this movie so much over and over to the point where it felt like we were getting something new every single time. It was crazy.
Sure.
It was crazy. And the conversation would like reignite and then go like upgrade to the new added information.
I know we get to that point too. We're like, no. You know what? Let's just not think about that because then we're gonna get ourselves into another rabbit hole. And
yeah,
it's fine.
Eventually, we felt like we did all the thinking we could for Inception, and we still listen to the music. And if it's on, hell, I'll still watch it. But it was like you reached your peak. We reached the peak again, and we're like, okay, that's enough of that. We won't be. We'll get back to it eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still one that had a hell of a ride in our lives.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us because I probably would have never, ever, ever, ever watched it again. But I'm glad
it's been
I
on my
did.
list to try to get her make her watch it with me for years. So
You're experiencing all these movies freshly. Like it's so awesome that you get. I'm jealous. Like I said it. I think I settled the score, but I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I thought it at least that like you get to go through these movies again because I wish I could go through a lot of these movies for the first time. Being older and just being able to process things differently.
Yeah.
I may hate movies that I loved growing up by watching them as I'm older. So
or there are ones that you're like, no, this is a gem.
yeah, I would never get rid of Ghostbusters. I would leave Ghostbusters right where it is because I got it locked down.
Well, with that, we might as well wrap things up with our ratings and renewing of vows. So just for you all, I generally try to have the 0 to 5 heart rating be some semblance of a objective scale in terms of the quality of the movie that we think we have. And then the renew your vows is like,
would you watch it again?
Would you watch it again? Basically, okay, is the short version. And mine's real easy, at least. This was a 5 out of 5, and absolutely would renew my vows. I do think the one difference is like I'm not necessarily needing to go watch it immediately because I think this time I benefited from the fact that it had been some time, and so like I knew where things were going, I knew the giant themes, but then like had missed or had been long enough that I could see new details and everything like that. Dani.
Nice, good burp.
Trying not to burp into the mic.
I also give it 5 hearts, and that is rare unless it's
It is.
like Hocus Pocus or
And usually she doesn't like get serious about it. She wouldn't be like 5 out of 5. She'd be like 10 billion out of 5.
No, this is a brilliant, very well done movie, and I can appreciate the art of it. Like one of the only movies that I really do appreciate the art of. So there's that. Would I renew my vows? No, thank you. I really don't need to go through that trauma again.
It's a study session for sure.
Yeah.
It requires a lot more unnecessary. Like you said, it's about turning it off and enjoying the ride.
Mhm.
This one makes you do homework. There is an amazing poster out there, artwork of the timeline, visual representation in timeline of characters and how
they go into the dream, whose mind they're in at that moment, like
Oh,
what they're
wow.
doing. Yeah.
and
Like people did that. We were like watching
Yeah.
it like, oh, okay.
we can sit there and we look at that and we get it. Like we can read it. Like we know exactly where we are.
It took a
what we're
couple
doing.
tries, but yeah.
Yeah, it's some
We got
next
there.
level appreciation. There's also one for Primer. You ever seen Primer? Don't.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that one, if this one made your brain hurt, that one will make your brain
man.
like
Literally
it was
melt.
in poison ivy. Like it's just it's
Like the
a lot.
DC character.
no.
Oh, the
Like
plant.
No.
because you get itchy.
Okay, I was gonna be like that took a turn.
So how
no,
many
it's
hearts
tough.
do you give?
Yeah, how many hearts would you both give, and would you renew your vows?
It's pushing down the wall of the 5. It's like, let me go all the way down.
10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. I would renew my vows on this one. I love watching this movie. I mean, every time it's on TV, I'll just be like, yeah, let me just watch this. Sure.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And with that, thank you, Late to the Party, so much for being on mic with us. We really appreciate it. We've had a blast talking to you. And I love you, Dani.
I love you, Nick.
We love you, Late to the Party, and we love you, movie lovers and listeners. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Dig it up.
Dig it up.
Are you gonna stop recording?
Follow us on Twitter at the letter N, Love with Movies, on Facebook at facebook.com/withmoviesandlove, and on Instagram and TikTok at inlove_with-movies.
You can email us at withmoviesinlove, that's all one word, withmoviesinlove@gmail.com, to share your own love stories with us, suggest future love topics that you might want to hear us discuss, or just to say, hey, we like to hear from you.
Hey.
All original music written and performed by Danny Smith, with our theme song remixed by Paul Brandt.
And this whole podcast was produced and edited by my lovely husband, Nicholas Baldwin.
Special thank you to Ben Abear for Danny's Dingle and Nick Stretchberry for our website and podcast art.